This is Rebel Mom Boss, the podcast for scrappy, rebellious moms who are making things happen while raising their babies. My name is Robyn Flynn, a scrappy, rebellious mom myself, and the founder and managing director of Robyn Flynn Media. I'm also a mom to a beautiful toddler named Peyton. We do things a little bit differently here, so buckle up and welcome to the rebellion. Being a mom is both incredibly rewarding and challenging. For some of us, though, the challenge starts long before we change our very first diaper. This week, I'm talking to a fellow scrappy IVF mom and registered dietitian who specializes in fertility nutrition. Susan Portz offers personalized one-on-one fertility nutrition coaching sessions, as well as an online course that you can take at your own pace. Hi, Susan. Welcome to the Rebellion.
Hi, Robyn. It's nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, so happy to chat with you because this is a topic that I've been chomping at the bit to discuss.
I love it.
Yeah. So it was interesting because when I was going through infertility and IVF, it was an all-consuming part of my life. It was
100%.
It was everything. And it's like the second you get pregnant, it's like boom, boom, done. And you almost forget about it. And I feel like it's only recently that I've begun to process the trauma of what I truly went through. And I wonder if that's something that, one, you experienced, and two, some of your clients have experienced.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. As you're saying that, I've that's actually been one of the biggest things I feel like in more recent months that I've realized it. And maybe I realized it immediately after I got pregnant and as I was pregnant and then in early postpartum years and stuff like that. But I shouldn't say years, months. My daughter's only 19 months, but it's I remember thinking oh, I'm not gonna need therapy after this is over. Wrong. wrong. But you still need therapy afterwards. And part of me wonders if it's because, and I didn't realize this when I was in the thick of it. And so tell me if you kind of relate to this too. But I felt when I was in the thick of it, it was just so all consuming. I didn't realize until after the fact how depressed and anxious I was. And so now it's almost it's as soon as you get pregnant, you it's you black it out. You're I literally can't even go there because it's so painful. So then I think it's almost the farther you get out from it, then it's, I don't want to say easier, but it's then it's okay, I need to process this.
I find it creeps up for me in moments I didn't expect. So the first moment where I really felt the trauma of the infertility was my daughter's first birthday. And it was when everyone was singing happy birthday to her at the party. And I'm going to cry now. I literally couldn't sing with everyone because I didn't know if I was ever going to have that moment singing to my daughter, yes, happy birthday. And I find that those kinds of moments happen all the time,
Mm-hmm.
The first piece of artwork she brought home from preschool, from nursery school, from daycare. It was, most people are ugh, what am I going to do with all of my kids' artwork? I don't want to save it. And for me, every single piece of artwork is so precious because I never thought I would get to have little tiny footprint paintings and things like that. And those are the moments where I'm noticing it in myself. I consider myself fairly self-aware, where I'm oh my God, this is trauma. This is the infertility trauma sort of rearing its ugly head. And when I've tried to discuss it with people who haven't done IVF, it's, you're so lucky. At least it worked. It was all worth it. And it so negates the experience of what we went through.
Yeah. And I found okay, so it's interesting that you say that, the first birthday kind of thing. So I feel for me, when I really noticed it was when I got my period back, which was after her first birthday, because it was I felt because I was breastfeeding and stuff like that, I wasn't getting a period, and so it was I just wasn't even thinking about it, right? And it was glorious, let me tell you, it was glorious. So then it was the minute I got it back, I was oh, holy crap, wait a minute, it was almost it was oh my God, but now I could get pregnant. And then it was oh, then it was all the trauma, yeah, from all the years of trying and failing, basically.
And it's so painful whenever somebody says to me, and maybe this is sort of a good teaching moment for folks who haven't been through infertility, is saying, well, at least it was worth it, is so minimizing because obviously it was worth it. Like, no one's
Yeah, that's
saying
insane.
it wasn't.
Yes.
But, there was a very good chance when I was going through it that it wasn't going to work. And that
Mhm.
we were spending thousands of dollars, and I was enduring tons of, painful procedures and tests, and the anxiety, the amount of time spent in doctor's offices is like, I don't think people really understand all that it entails, giving yourself injections and becoming a scientist, mixing different medications and different vials. And it's unreal. You have to think about sharps disposal, like things you never would have thought of. And I guess what I'm looking for is a way to like process that experience without, sounding like I'm ungrateful. I'm like, I feel sometimes just like mad that I had to do it at all. You
Same.
know?
100%. Yeah. And we like, so we're like, I also feel like I'm like reaching this like awkward point where it's like, okay, so my daughter is 19 months. We don't have any more embryos. Um, and it's like reaching that awkward point of like, do we want more kids? Do I feel like I have the choice to have more kids? Do I want to go down the path of that? Like, it's just like so many things. And so it's like re-bringing all those same things up. It's like, it's different than the first time.
Yes.
I'm not even counting this as a second time, right? It's just like, I don't know. It's just bringing up all that same stuff. And I feel like what we went through the first time is very easily dismissed because it's like, oh, well, you had success.
Yes. And I also feel like the difference the first time was it was between being a mom or not being a mom.
Yes.
Versus
Stakes are
now.
so high.
It's very different now. It feels like less pressure. We do have embryos left. And
Okay.
like, let me tell you, the family is all over us. Like, are you going to have another one? You're going to have another one. You've got all these embryos left. And I'm like, yes, we have the embryos left, but that doesn't make it easier, less emotionally taxing. And I'd be doing all of it with a toddler this time.
That's totally something that I think about too. I'm like, can I be like the mom that I want to be and desire to be, and be like present? Because I think that's another thing too after going through infertility, like in IVF, like you're like, you don't take, it's those little things, like you said, like you don't take anything for granted. And so it's like, can I do that? Like, can I do the steps of IVF at the same time when I'm like parenting? Like, when I did it the first time, I could just lay on the couch with my dog if I didn't feel good.
Yeah, I remember right before my egg retrieval, so I ended up developing OHSS, ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, which is not fun. Basically, you make too many eggs. It's crazy. And I likened it, I was like, I feel like I have a bag of golf balls in my abdomen, is how I like described the sensation. People were like, oh my God, that sounds horrible. Like, oh my gosh.
You're like, yeah.
Exactly. But I was able to just relax on the couch, take a nap if I wanted to. Even when I was pregnant, the last 3 weeks, I basically napped every day. Like, good luck doing that with a 3-year-old. Anyway, there's this great clip. I might actually play it in here.
Laser focused. Laser
if you
focused.
say you're going to do something, you're going to do
and
something.
if somebody said, if I read something that said, drink iced tea or take, Pepto-Bismol or have 3 coffees or whatever somebody's recommendation was, I would do whatever it took, to try and get pregnant.
Kris Jenner, in this clip, she spoke about how when she was trying to have a baby, she would have been willing to do anything. She was like, no matter what you told me to eat, I would have eaten it. If you told me that drinking my own urine would have been able to get me pregnant, I would have drank it. Like, literally whatever. And this kind of leads me to part of the reason I'm so excited to have you on this podcast is because you really specialize in fertility nutrition. And I remember that felt like something that was very lacking from my, reproductive endocrinologist. Was, they were like, here's the medication, here are the appointments, here's what you need to do. But that holistic approach was very lacking. And I felt very left to my own devices to figure things out. I think some of the ones we all know about is like the pineapple juice and, all those kinds of things. But I'm curious, twofold question here. One, what your experience has been with the medical system in terms of that holistic approach to infertility. And 2, maybe we can at a certain point go through like which ones actually work.
Yes, I like hit on some because there's so many myths and just a lot of conflicting information. So, okay, so I'll answer the first part first, which is like, I would say I had a similar experience to you as far as like, I wasn't really like, we had two different clinics, two different REIs, and like, I never got any sort of, it was like, okay, like, eat healthy. Well, that's pretty vague. And like, what that means to like me might be very different from what that means to you. And like, I think that also leaves a lot of like open ended for people to just end up in a Google black hole because let's be real, like, that's what happens when you're going through infertility is like, it's like the late night doom scrolling of like, what can I do to like get pregnant? The problem is like, there's so much conflicting information that it leads to more like confusion, overwhelm, unnecessarily like eliminating certain foods from your diet, which then leads to nutrient deficiencies, nutrient gaps. Anyways, so I would say like, yeah, no one was really, neither of the clinics I went to, I mean, the one clinic I went to did have a dietitian, but I think primarily they were focused on helping people lose weight to do IVF.
Yeah.
Or women with PCOS, which I don't have PCOS. And anyways, I have different feelings about that. Mixed feelings on the whole, like, you need to lose weight to do IVF, okay? I have very mixed feelings on that. And by mixed feelings, I mean, I wouldn't recommend someone, like, go on a diet in order. Like, I know why they recommend it, right? But I think when you just tell someone like, oh, you need to lose weight and then we can do IVF, like, that sets them up for failure because it's setting people up to just go online, figure out how to lose weight fast. What's the fastest way I can lose however much weight, which is basically just going to nutritionally deprive your body and put your body into a famine mode, which when your body's not getting enough of the nutrients it needs, why would it get pregnant? So it's like the exact opposite of what you want for someone that's trying to get pregnant.
I mean, that was exactly my experience. Like, I'm overweight. I've been overweight my entire adult life. And it was the same thing. I was just straight up refused by a lot of the fertility doctors.
Yeah.
No, come back to me when you lose. And it wasn't like lose 10 pounds. Like, they were telling me to lose like 150 pounds. Like,
Which
significant.
yeah.
And I was like, that is going to take me like 2 years to do in a healthy way, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I was already in my mid 30s. I was like, I'm not getting any younger. Like, I'm getting nervous here. So I basically found a doctor who was willing to work with me. He set a reasonable plan in place. He was like, yes, if you lose weight, it's going to help, but don't focus on a number that you need to achieve. He was like, you know, we've got to get some ducks in a row first. My doctor actually had COVID when we started working together. So like we couldn't see each other right away. So that helped. Anyway, I would say I definitely didn't lose weight in a healthy way. Looking back on it, I lost about 40 pounds doing keto. So I basically deprived myself of carbs for a bunch of time until I lost the weight. But I obviously gained it all back once I started pumping myself full of hormones and then gained weight when I was pregnant. Like,
right. And like, that's not healthy either.
The yo-yo effect, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like that like messes with your metabolism.
Absolutely. But there's also this like, I feel like part of it is also stigma based that, you know, in general, I've experienced in healthcare, just no matter what's wrong, it's because you're fat. Like,
yes.
You know, like your nose hurts, go lose some weight, like no matter what the issue is. And that sucks for one. And then second of all, where I'm located, so I'm in Quebec in Canada, and there are rules here for out-of-hospital anesthesia administration. So because IVF is performed not in a hospital, obviously, you're not in a real OR, you're in a clinic, they just couldn't administer anesthesia for me during the egg retrieval. So I had an unanesthetized egg retrieval, which, I mean, there's like literal podcasts out about women who have been through this, how horrific it is. And
I actually had a client that had to do that. Yeah.
I had to sign a waiver, so I knew what I was getting into, but I think it's hard to really know what you're getting into until you experience a needle being poked into your vaginal wall to extract eggs. And I had 29 eggs to extract, so it was a lengthy process. And now that I've been through childbirth, 100% less painful. Like, this was way more painful. Like, because at least with the childbirth, like, I had an epidural and, like, I'd been, contractions have a beginning and an end. This was just, like, an hour of agony. It was horrific. And I think that's one thing that the clinics don't make very clear is the reasons for it. You're just made to feel like, well, you're fat, you're disgusting, you're not worth having, you're not worth helping. And that messaging is very damaging to someone who's already, traumatized from not being able to have children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because so many times, and so I kind of like, I've never been in a larger body, but being a dietitian, I've been a dietitian for like 12 years. And so I've gone through this whole like process as a dietitian. And I would say probably like 7 years ago is when I got into like learning deep more about like the weight stigma. And that's when I started to see this whole thing of what happens in healthcare, which is like, yeah, you have a bloody nose. Oh, it's because you're overweight, or, and it's like, that's not actually treating anyone. And like, and that's when I started to see so much stuff go like undiagnosed because we just like blame everything on weight. And it's just like, people won't get testing done because someone's like, oh, it's just like a weight thing. Even like probably people earlier on in like conceiving, like that could be like a recommendation, like just lose weight. And anyways, I digress. But my point is, yeah, that's kind of where I started to see that inside of like the healthcare field, and where I was like, I can't like work in this model. Because that's not that's not the only thing that we need to be like focusing on. And the ways that we, again, like I said, if someone's given that blanket statement, like you just said, like, did I even go about it in a healthy way? Like, no, because who would? Like, you're going through infertility, like you're struggling enough, like mentally. And so, of course, you're going to do whatever you can. Like we said earlier, you're going to do whatever you can. So you're going to cut out whatever foods you have to in order to get pregnant, like as fast as possible. Because the sooner you're pregnant, the sooner this is over.
Yep. And then when I was pregnant, my cravings ended up being fruit and muffins. And I think that was because my body was so carbohydrate deprived.
I was like, wait a minute, I need to make up for this.
Exactly. And you know what the crazy thing is? Like, I ate all the fruit. Like, I listened to my body when I was pregnant, and I only gained 20 pounds in my pregnancy. And, like, I had doctors telling me, like, you're going to be enormous, you're going to have, you're going to get gestational diabetes, you're going to get preeclampsia. And, like, I'm here to tell you, like, I weighed over 300 pounds when I had a baby. No gestational diabetes, even though they made me take that test so many times. No preeclampsia. Like, I had a textbook normal healthy pregnancy. My daughter was 8 pounds, which is pretty average. Like, I didn't have this giant baby. That everything was fine. And they make it sound like if you get pregnant, you're like this horrible, irresponsible person. Your baby's gonna die. You're gonna die. And that's just not true.
Yeah. No, it's not true at all. And that's just like another thing that I think gets pushed on to women in the infertility space. And like, you also hit on the fact that like, going through IVF, like, you're going to gain weight. Like, I shouldn't say, like, 100% of the cases. No, that would be, like, I can't say that. But it does happen. It's fairly common. The way that the hormonal medications, like, impact your hormones and your metabolism, like, it's not an uncommon thing. Yeah. So, I just think about, like, how that's, like, setting anyone up to feel in that process anyways.
Absolutely.
Okay, I gotta answer. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
I was thinking I didn't answer your second part to that question.
That's literally what I was about to do, was drive us back there.
That's back here. Okay, so let's just dive into a little bit of like, what are the things, to hit on the keto thing, I see that a lot. There are clinics there. I know in the US there is like one particular clinic, one particular physician that like hardcore pushes keto. And so I have a theory on this. And my theory is that the reason why they push keto is because they're trying to get your blood sugar to be more stable, which is ideal for a more fertile body. It does help with egg quality. It does help keep your hormones more stable. However, we don't just have to like cut out all carbs in order to do that, but that's what they think is like the easiest way to tell people. Like they think like all or nothing. If I just tell people don't eat carbs, like they'll probably still eat some carbs, and they think it's just probably going to be like too much anyways. And so in turn, like that is going to help stabilize out blood sugar, but that's not the way that you should do it. There's definitely a better way to go about that. So keeping blood sugar stable is a big key component that I always talk about, but you can do that in a way by like eating carbs and you don't have to cut them all the way out. And focusing on gut health.
Oh, hang on, your audio cut out. I can't hear you. Oh, there you are. Okay. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I'm having yeah, I can, but okay, is it working now?
Oh yeah, I hear you.
I'm having a problem with my mic lately. I think it's the cord. Anyway.
Maybe. Oh, now I lost you again. There. Yeah, sometimes the wire. Is that a Yeti? Like a snowball? I find the wire is always getting loose on those ones. I cannot hear you. No. Hang on. Oh.
Now
there we go. Yes, now I hear you.
Okay.
Okay, now we don't touch it.
Okay,
right,
so yeah. Okay, I have it turned a specific way, so I'm thinking maybe it will just
okay,
stay.
The last part I heard was you said focusing on gut health.
Okay. So, gut health is something that I think a lot of women maybe don't necessarily realize how it impacts fertility, but just like a little background, like if you're not able to digest and absorb the nutrients that you're consuming, like one, you're not getting all the nutrients that you need, and two, it causes inflammation inside of your body. And digestion issues are fairly common with I would say with like PCOS and endometriosis, but I've even seen it in women like where they've been diagnosed with say like unexplained. Because there's definitely a difference between thinking that you have like good digestion and it actually being good, because sometimes what we think is normal is not actually normal. Like going several days without like having a bowel movement, probably not like the best case scenario, right? Because that's also the way that we clear excess hormones and toxins from our body. So I think gut health gets kind of maybe like I think it's increasing in popularity, but it's definitely under talked about, especially within like it's not addressed when women are going through fertility treatments or pursuing fertility treatments, not talked about. And so those are kind of like some of the bigger things that I always say to focus on. And then another big thing too is fat consumption. Most women are not consuming enough fat, and that's because a lot of us come from this era of like fat is bad for you and like fat is all high in calories and fat will make you gain weight. But as women with reproductive systems, like our reproductive hormones, so fat is the backbone to cholesterol. So how your body is making cholesterol, it needs fat, and then cholesterol is the backbone to hormones. So if you're not consuming enough fat, then your body struggles to make the amount of cholesterol it needs, and in turn have enough cholesterol to support adequate amounts of these like reproductive hormones. So I tend to see that happen a lot. And so in the beginning, when I was talking about how people will, there's all these different advice, and a lot of it's like, cut out gluten, cut out dairy, cut out sugar, cut out processed foods. Well, what happens is people end up incidentally missing out on these like nutrients that are really essential and under eating. And I want to say too that under eating, you don't have to be extremely thin to be under eating. Like, I think that's a common misconception. Like, oh, I'm not really skinny, so therefore I'm not under eating. Not true.
Yes. And like in the past when I've tried, I do have PCOS, and when I've tried to do like the typical, diet, literally nothing happened. It had zero effect on me. They're like, eat less, move your body more. I was like, cool, I'm going for walks every day. I'm sticking to this caloric deficit. didn't work, didn't do anything. They're like, that's not possible. You must be lying about what you're eating. And like that is such a horrible way to approach discussions about weight with somebody, right?
Yeah.
To accuse them of lying, first of
Right.
all.
Right.
But also just to like not understand that bodies process things differently. Like you could see a thin person who eats like garbage, tons of fast food, drinks a ton, and they're thin, and you'll accept that and be like, yeah, that makes sense. But you can't see a person in a larger body who eats well and you don't believe that. Like
Right.
why is there that disconnect?
Yeah. Our society is so, diet culture is so pervasive that it just, everyone like has like, that they're seeing this lens through is from like the trenches of diet culture, which is just years and years and decades of like built up basically like false rumors on like how the body works, and that it's frustrating.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, I want to make sure we get to this before we wrap up. So let's go through maybe some of the more common myths
Mhm.
of fertility boosting foods. Is there any truth that for eating pineapple at a certain point in your cycle can be helpful? I was told that you should be eating pineapple after you ovulate to help thicken your uterine lining. Is there any validity to that?
Okay, so there is some validity to pineapple core. So inside of pineapple core is this compound called bromelain, which has been shown to help. It's been shown to help with the receptivity of your uterine lining. So now we don't know exactly how much you need, but here's what I always tell people about that. So yes, there's some truth to it. But that doesn't mean like, okay, let's talk about eating pineapple core, okay? Because like that's maybe not like the most ideal situation, like cutting it up and eating it. Like, so if you could put it in a smoothie, like if you're someone that really likes it, throw it in a smoothie if you like pineapple. But if you're someone that like doesn't like pineapple, like this is not going to be make it or break it. These other things that we're talking about, like the main core principles of like nutrition for fertility and egg quality, those are far more important than like you consuming enough bromelain post ovulation or post transfer or leading up to a transfer.
It's probably just because it's so easy to tell someone like eat pineapple for 3 days as opposed to like change your entire diet and the way you look at food. It's like, ugh, I can't do that, but I'll drink the pomegranate juice. Okay. Like it's so much easier.
That's actually a really good point, because like I think that's part of like what women are looking for when they get in that like Google of like list all the things that I like could be doing or should be doing. Like those things, like, okay, I can drink some pomegranate juice. Okay, I can eat some pineapple. Okay, like I can take this supplement. But when we start talking about like, okay, let's look at how you're structuring your meals and those kind of things, like that's where it gets overwhelming, I think.
It does, especially if you're holding down a full-time job. Presumably
Mhm.
you have a partner that, you're trying to prioritize that relationship. You may or may not have other children, family commitments, aging parents. You're going in for when you're at the later stages of IVF, I mean, you're going in for ultrasounds like every day, every other day. You're constantly in there checking things. Like
Mhm.
it's a lot. The last thing you want to be doing is meal prepping, right?
Exactly. Exactly. That's why women need like a simple approach to this stuff. Like,
Mm,
but I think like women going through infertility, and say this coming from my own experience as well, is like we will overcomplicate these things.
it's true.
Be-
It's true. And I also I always recommend, so like I remember I worked with an IVF coach who was basically just like a woman who had experienced infertility and had become like a life coach but worked specifically with IVF patients. And like she was my savior when I was doing IVF because like I remember the day I got all my medications. It's such an overwhelming day because you have so many different things, and like she hopped on a Zoom call with me and we went through them all together and she explained everything to me, and like just stuff that like your doctor doesn't have time to do, right? They should,
Mhm.
but they don't.
Yeah.
And so I like, as I'm talking to you, I'm like, wow, I would have loved to have worked with somebody like you when I was doing IVF to help me structure my meal plans in a way that would have made sense in a less overwhelming way. Just I feel like my recommendation is to find support when you're going through IVF that isn't just your partner or your mother or your doctor, to like work with a professional who's been there.
Yes, 100%. Actually, as you're saying this, I like was just thinking earlier, and I actually was talking about this on my Instagram, like about the fact that like, so a lot of times when I like talk to women about like working with me, whether that's like, I my course option or one-on-one, like a lot of times, like, they're hesitant to spend the money on something like, an IVF coach or like working with a dietitian that has experience in this, because for a lot of people, they're spending a lot of money out of pocket on fertility treatments. And so, but the caveat is that the fertility treatments don't fix everything, right? Like you are taking all these medications, and the medications are going to do the best they can. But like if your body isn't in a place where it's like healthy, and I'm talking like healthy from a reproductive standpoint, right? Like, getting the nutrients it needs from like carbs, protein, fat, and vitamins and minerals in order to really nourish fertility and like support and boost egg quality, then going through and paying all the money for the treatments. Like, I'm not saying it's not going to work. I'm just saying like it could cost more money in the long run.
You want to maximize what you're doing. Right?
Yes, like if you're gonna, here's the thing. Actually, that's a really good point. If you're gonna put your body through all that work of a fertility treatment, especially IVF, because that is labor intensive on the woman. Let's be real. If you're gonna put your body through all of that, even if it's free, like even if your insurance miraculously covers it if you're in the US, you want to make sure you're in the place, like the best, giving yourself the best possible chance, and just using like what you can find on Google and being confused and not having this straightforward plan like is not necessarily helping.
For sure. For sure. Okay. I want to talk a bit more about the services that you offer as well. So you mentioned one-on-one coaching and a course on your website. So where do people go to get all of this amazing info?
Okay, so first of all, come find me on Instagram, Nutrition for Infertility, and say hi, like send me a DM, tell me that you listen to this podcast. And then in my link in my bio in there, you can find links to my course. So that's probably the easiest way to find it. Just go to the link in the bio. You can find the link to my course. When you find it, you'll get an exclusive discount. And then, yeah, of course. And then if you want like more support and you want more of that one-on-one feel, I take some clients for like a one-on-one messenger program. And this program is pretty cool, actually. This is a program where I actually have a client right now that's going to be starting IVF for the first time soon. And so we have been like working through like messaging back and forth about her meals, optimizing them, getting everything set up. And we're actually going to work on like doing some meal prepping before she starts STIM. So that way she has like everything laid out, good to go. So if you want something like more done with you, like I help you, like that's the approach. Of course, I'm going to help you inside of the course. The course gives you all the information to do it on your own, kind of thing. But I like to say so the name of my course is Fertility Nutrition Simplified for a reason. Because I have simplified it for you.
I wish I had met you 4 years ago when I was going through all of this, because I could have used this kind of help so much. So, hopefully somebody who is going through this right now, who is trying to have a baby, I know it's hard to talk about. You feel free to reach out to me as well, because I've been there. But find someone to talk to is really my main piece of advice. What would your main piece of advice be?
Yeah, I love that advice of like finding someone to talk to, even like if it's like a friend like that you find online that is also going through it. I actually like made some friends with like other women going through IVF, and that's actually part of the reason why there is a community within my course for women to connect with other women that are going through it too, because I think that connection with someone else, especially if you don't have anyone else in your like immediate like close surrounding life that's like going through it, I think that connection is so invaluable.
Absolutely. Whew. Susan Portz can be found on Instagram at Nutrition for Fertility. She's the person you want to talk to if you need one-on-one coaching for your fertility journey, or if you want to get her course that you can do at your own pace, which is very, very cool. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
If you like what you heard today, make sure you follow and subscribe to Rebel Mom Boss with Robyn Flynn wherever you get your podcasts. Oh, and make sure to leave a review because that's how other moms will find the podcast too. Until next week.